can't believe it was that simple. Just a stupid mistake on my part. So one of the things that you need for this to work, for the character and the AI to be moving around, is a navigation mesh. And I did ended up I ended up mentioning it in the last stream, but for this one I forgot to turn this on. So usually I have that on by default, and it was not on. So you can just drag in navigation bounds mesh volume. You can see instantly there that that is the area that you can walk on, or your AI NPCs and everything else can walk on. So let me raise that up a little bit. And now, if I turn this off, navigation mesh for the display, our little ant moves around. So, that was the issue. The whole time was the stupid navigation mesh not being turned on. So now we can get, you know, to the reachable points that we wanted to, and we are back at it. So, sorry about that. I had to really just take a step back, go back to basics, figure out what was going on. All my source, everything else worked fine. So, we're all good. So the last part that we left off at was we were testing to make sure that our AI was able to move around on its own. The animations were all working. You can see them little antennae. Those little antennas are moving, so the animation is playing. The speed is being set and controlled. When he stops, the idle animation is playing. And then when he's walking, the walk animation is playing. So that's all being driven properly. So again, just remember, for you to get this to work, navigation mesh, make sure it's turned on. Always keep this on if you can, to make sure if you're dealing with any kind of AI. So that was that one issue. All right, so I'm going to turn this off for now. The next piece that we want to get to is the materials. So what ants do in real life is they drop pheromones around to help other ants follow them and to build their trails, right? When they find food, they lay down a certain pheromone. When that food spot and that food source runs out, they drop another pheromone that is a deterrent. So this kind of system needs to be, you know, replicated inside this if we want to make it a little bit more realistic. Especially when we drop in a bunch more ants, they need to be able to react to the different pheromones. Working with one ant, it's simple, it's easy. But what we would like to do is put in, you know, 500, 1,000, 10,000 ants in here, place a bunch of random food sources around, and have the ants kind of go to town. The AI ants go to town and know what to do. So having a pheromone source is important. So that's what we're going to implement now. One thing we could do is if you don't, you could do decals and whatnot, but I think being able to do hit traces on something that you actually physically drop that's more of a planar as well. We'll just implement a basic one maybe. So what we could do is create another blueprint class, and this will be a static mesh component. Or no, we'll do static mesh actor, and we will call this, I know you guys can't see that, but calling it BP underscore ant trail. I'm gonna get this. So the static mesh we're going to use is just a default cylinder. Let's see if we can do that. There should be a cylinder in here. If not, we have another way. In engine, let's do geometry, cylinder. This kind of forces it. Let's go down to 1, 1. Outer radius. Let's drop it down. I'm just trying to see and gauge relative size. Because initially, or essentially what I would like to do is have the ant be able to scan, you know, about 3 points of this in range. And so I'd have a scan going out like this, right? In this kind of like cone shape. And I would like there to be something like this. So when the ant is back here, he can scan up to 3 different objects in front of him. And that might help drive the way that which path and which pheromone to follow. So if like this one's red, and this one's green, you want to follow the green one. So essentially the ant needs to be laying these down. So I'm just trying to get and gauge the size that these should be. And that's about right. So I set this to 1 on the Z height, and the outer radius is 20. So I'm going to get rid of this BP ant trail for now. I'm going to convert this cylinder brush to a blueprint. I forget which. I have to apply the brush, and then I have to convert static mesh. And actually, while we're still here, let's go ahead and create a new material that we're going to be using for this. We'll call it ant trail. And I'm just going to give it a default value of green for now. So hold down 3, pipe that into base color. Set this to green. Just any green color. That's fine. And then we'll make sure that this is ant trail. We'll create a static mesh of this. Put that in ant simulation, and we'll just call this SM underscore ant trail marker. SM for static mesh. Go ahead and create that. Geometry. Now we can come into here and we can do a, let's find where it's at. Blueprint, add script. There we go. We'll call this BP underscore ant trail. Okay, now we have it. It's not on all sides, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Wonder if we can get rid of that piece. Yeah, we'll deal with it. That's fine. Let me try something real quick though. Let's double check this right here. Oh, that's why. I think we can fake it out. No, cannot. That's all right. We'll deal with it. Just leave it like that. I could have sworn there was a way that you can remove a material from a static mesh. Even though... Nah. It's outside the scope of this tutorial for now. I'll figure it out later. Anyways, okay. So we're here. We have our pheromone trail blueprint, right? Let's go back into our material. All right, so where do I want to take this? Let me think here. Actually, let's just try to drop it. Let's just try to get the ant to drop randomly the pheromone. Let's do that first. Let's say, let's go into the controller. There we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and set timer by event. I hope you guys can see this. Let me try to zoom in as much as I can. I know some people were saying it was hard to see or it might be blurry, so I'm gonna just try to work like this. Close to the screen as possible. All right, so essentially what we want to do is at a certain interval we want to spawn a new pheromone, right, for the ant. So we'll go ahead and add custom event. We'll call this drop pheromone marker, and this event is looping, and we'll set it to 0.25. No delay. And then because this is an AI controller, we can go ahead and do this. Get controlled pawn. Get actor location. We can do make transform. Nope. Make transform. Like that. Go ahead and split these because we need to change it. To split, you have to do that first, unlink it, and then do that. Okay. And then we are going to go spawn BP, spawn from class. We're going to do BP ant trail. There we go. This transform is here. We're going to plug in X, Y, because those are going to be the same. That doesn't matter. And then the only thing that we have to change is the Z location. Because if the ant is a little higher, it's going to spawn it right at the point of where the ant is, not on the ground necessarily. And we want to try to get it as close to the ground as possible. There's other ways we can do this, but let's just play around with this number for now. Set it to 25. Instigator, or the owner, we're going to set the owner to self. And then get controlled pawn again. You could drag it out all the way over here, but I'm not going to. We have to do cast to BP ant character. You know what? Let's do this after. We could leave this here, but we'll do this after because I think we're going to have to change the material first. Let's go ahead, run them. Hey, there you go. It's actually a pretty good, decent height. Okay, so we have the ant actually dropping pheromones, right? Little tiny pheromone markers everywhere. That's pretty cool. But that effect does not look that good, especially it's going to clutter up this entire area. Maybe until they find food, we want it to fade, right? That'd be kind of cool. So how are we going to do that in our material? If we have on the character, we have a Boolean value. There are ways that we can do this. To have a blueprint control a Boolean value without it actually being a Boolean value inside of your material. Because there are bool parameters that you can have on here, right? Static bool and then parameters. But this cannot be accessed from inside of a blueprint. So we have to get creative for that. So we could do this. Let's do a lerp between the two colors that we want. So we want green and maybe red as the deterrent pheromone, right? Let's try green and red. Pipe that in. And then let's do a... So let's just make this. We'll name this has food. Okay. So this is going to let us know whether or not the ant has found food. Okay. So the minimum value is going to be 0. Maximum value, let's just set that to 1. Default value is going to be 0, and that's going to mean it's full green. If it's 1, it's going to be red. Okay, so we're just going to use this as a test to see if we can. So let's keep it green for now. And then let's go back into our AI controller. And this may end up, I hope this doesn't give us a problem, but because of the way that we made the static mesh here, it may be giving us some problems because we have to material. I hope it doesn't, but it might. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll try to work around it if we have to. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead. Because we're spawning this blueprint, we can get the static mesh component. And actually just do set scalar parameter value on materials. That'll be easier instead of typing that all out. The parameter name is has food question mark. And the value here is going to be coming from the character. We have that boolean, remember? And then we're going to just convert that to a float. And that float will give us a 0 or 1 since it's a boolean. 0 being false, 1 equals true. It just converts the float to us. So this is how you can actually, it's a cool little trick, how you can control materials with boolean values on the outside of a material. You just set it up like this, and then it just works. So just kind of clever. Hope that helps somebody. All right. Now let's try this. So we have this going. She's dropping the pheromones. Let's test to see if it works at all. Let's go back to our character. And has food, we're just going to set it to true for now. Just make sure it works. Yep. Okay, now they're red. It's pretty clever. So let's set this back to green. Now what we want to do is we want to set these to red on the fly. We don't want to have to sit there and do like has food and check it to test it. We want to just set it. So for now, essentially, we want there to be food laid around the map. And when the ant actually picks up a piece of food, brings it back, we want it to be red at that point. Not in the grand scheme of things. We eventually want it to be when the food runs out from a spot, leave the red deterrent pheromone down, which would be the red one, as you're coming back. And then eventually the ants will stop going to that source, you know. And the green one would be, hey, I have food. So what we can do just to test this out is we can do set timer by event inside of the character blueprint. BP ant character. We'll do add custom event has food. Oops. Has food. Yes, there's a bunch of other ways that we could do this. We could do this with a interface or event dispatcher. I'm just doing this to quickly test to make sure this actually works. So we'll set the time at 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds, we want it to switch over to full. Yes, has food. Yep, there we go. It worked. So that's pretty cool. So now we have no food pheromone, and then the food's gone pheromone trail. Both of them are working, right? Okay. Next thing, I think it would be kind of cool to have that trail disappear and us actually delete. Because if we have 500,000, 10,000 different ants leaving a bunch of these trail, it just uses up a bunch of resources that it's unnecessary. Yeah. So we should do some cleanup on that. And maybe do a cool little like fade effect as well as it's being deleted. So the first thing we can do is we can see if we can just delete it. I think we'll go that route. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll go that route. How do we want to do this? Okay. Let's create a new. Let's create a custom event called cleanup ant markers. And let's actually set our opacity just leave it at opacity there. So this is going to allow us to control our opacity. So let's go 1, the slider min and max 0 to 1. Okay, so in here, let's do add new time, add timeline, and this will be called fade marker. And then in here, we'll call this we'll just call it what it is, opacity. The length is going to be maybe a second or two. We could do 5 seconds. Yeah, let's keep it at 5 seconds for now. Time is going to be 0. Value is going to be 1. We're going to start at the high number since opacity is going to be 1, right? Add another key here. Time is going to be about there. The value will be 0. So over time, that should work. Go back here, and then we'll do this. This static mesh component, we'll do set scalar parameter update. Parameter name is opacity, and the parameter value is that. Now on finished, we can go ahead and destroy the actor that way. Does that look good? I think so. And then get rid of these. Do event destroyed. Nope. We'll just print out a message saying marker destroyed. We'll set the value color to red. And the duration like 0.00. Let's do 0.0001, something like that. I don't know. Really quick. We just needed to update really quick. And then on event tick, we'll do clean up ant markers. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you guys can see that. event graph. We created a custom event called cleanup ant markers, which at runtime sets a scalar parameter. We're running that on event tick. We actually don't have to do that there, but we'll do that there for now. Like I said, we could do a bunch of things with event dispatchers or interfaces that be a little bit easier. Now, you may be wondering, why am I not using the material parameter collection? Well, because that's global. NPCs are global. They work on everything across the entire world. So I don't want every ant in the world, even though they're at two separate places with two different states. One has food, one doesn't have food, or one's wandering, some super far away around the world in a different place on the map, and their pheromone colors should not be changing to red. So with the global parameter, that would happen. So I do it this way. All right, now let's see if this works. Just gonna see if the should fade over time. There we go. That looks pretty clean. And it fades it. We should probably speed that up maybe a little bit. Let's bring this back a little bit to 3. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay. I think that's it. I think that concludes the tutorial. In the future, I would like to set up a procedural generation type of world where it just it would generate a bunch of, like, an ant colony. On start, they would all kind of scatter and start picking up food and leaving pheromone trails. And I want to actually push this really far to see, where my skills are out for AI, but also to help anybody else that may be struggling with AI, materials, some of these tricks. So I hope this provided you guys some kind of, hey, Utu, thank you, brah. Thank you so much for following. I really appreciate it. Hit me up anytime you guys want. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm going to try to stream more often if I can, but please, you guys are all welcome anytime. Ladies, gentlemen,